Number 12, we start the kind of a little bit more intense problems here. Number 12 says for the diagram, RS, so I'm going to label, is 5W plus 2. ST, which is here to here, is 3W plus 5. And the whole thing, RT, is 12W minus 17. Find the value of W and then find RT. Okay, segment addition postulate says if you add two pieces on a segment together, that will equal the whole thing. So I need to add 5W plus 2 plus 3W plus 5. Add those together and set it equal to the whole thing. 12W minus 17. On the left side, I'm going to combine like terms. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8 W's. Add the constants, 2 plus 5 would be 7, equals 12W minus 17. Now I'm going to move the W, so I'm going to subtract 8W. Now it's just basic algebra. Add 17. So 4W equals 24, divide by 4, I'm running out of room. So W equals 6. Okay, now to find RT, well, let's see here, get my calculator out. RT is the whole thing, which they told me was 12W minus 17. So now that I know that W is 6, all I have to do is plug in 6 right there, put it in my calculator, and 55 would be RT. Okay, so integer just means whole number. That worked out. I didn't have to worry about a decimal, but decimal would have been okay if that's what yours equals. Number 13 says F is the midpoint, so similar kind of diagram going on. It's a segment with 3 points on it, except this time I have these marks right here. And if you remember, those mean congruent or the same. And I would also know that those are the same because F is in the middle. It's the midpoint. They tell me that the value of Z, find the value of Z and the value of QR. So here's what they tell me. QF, so I always like to label here. That's 7Z plus 9. FR is 11Z minus 7. To find Z, you're just going to set these guys equal. Since they're marked congruent, since F is in the middle, these segments are the same. And guys, you're either going to set them equal or add them together and set them equal to the whole thing. Just depends on what problem you're looking at. Basic algebra from here, so I move the smaller z's. I'm definitely going to run out of room, but that's okay. I'm going to add 7. Let's finish it right here. So then I would have 16 equals 4z divided by 4, and z would equal 4. Same idea to find QR. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I know that these two segments should be the same. So I know Z is 4, so I'm just going to plug 4 in just on the left side. So 7 times 4 plus 9 is 37. If this side is 37, this side should be 37. They're marked the same. So let me just double that. And 74 would be QR, which is the whole thing. Number 14, find the area in the perimeter of the red shaded region. So all angles are 90 degrees. Okay, let's find perimeter first, just because I like to do that first. For perimeter, you need all of the outside dimensions, and I have most of them. Let's fill this guy in. It's safe to assume, since these are all 90 degrees, that over here, this is also 4, since this right here is 4. Same thing with this one. That's 2, that's 2. Okay, over here, that's the only piece that I'm missing. So to figure that out, this is like a horizontal piece on the figure, so I look at all the other horizontal pieces. 11, 7, 2. Okay, if I carried like the 7 and the 2 up, so that's 2, this is 7. So here to here's 2, here to here's 7, so together that's 9. What has to be left over for right here? Well, that would be 2 more to make 11. So carry that down, and this guy's 2. Hopefully you followed that. Okay, I don't really need that. I'm going to scribble those out. Now I just add them all up to find the perimeter. So I like to mark where I start. Otherwise, I know that I probably am going to leave something out, add something twice. So I do 4. Just pick which one way to like add around the shape. So 4 plus 11 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2 plus 7 plus 2 plus 2. So the perimeter is 34. And then the area, so this is going to be a little more work. To find the area, I break this thing up, and you could do it a couple ways. I like to break it up into different rectangles. You could also think of it as like one big rectangle and then subtract what's missing. But I'm going to go ahead and like cut it up into this rectangle, this one, and then this one. These two down here are pretty easy, and you just do length times width to find the area. So 2 times 2, that's 4. 2 times 2, that's 4. So I know I'm going to do 4 plus 4. Then I just have to find the area of this longer, skinnier one. It's an 11 by not 4, because this whole thing is 4. If this is 2, this has to be 2 right here to make 4 total. So this is actually an 11 by 2. So 11 times 2 would be 22. So I just need to add these 3 areas together to total the whole red shaded region. So that's 8 plus 22, which would be 30 meters squared. All right, number 15, find the distance between these 2 points in simplest radical form and rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, I don't need my graph paper. You could use your graph paper that I gave you and plot the points. 10 probably goes off of this, but you could use it. You could plot the points and do Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to go ahead and choose to show you how to use the formula if you feel like you're still struggling with that. So what I'm going to do is label the points. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I'm just going to plug into the distance formula. Be really careful here. In the first set of parentheses, x2 minus x1. So that's 10 minus 0. In the second group of parentheses, y2 minus y1, 3 minus 5. That would be, do parentheses first. That's 10. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Then you would do the exponents. So I'm just doing order of operations. Don't mess this up right here. Whoa, why did I write a 5? Squared. Let's not raise it to the 5th power. Anything squared means times itself. So when you square negative 2, that's negative 2 times negative 2. So this is going to be 100, 10 times 10. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So that'd be square root of 104. And I have to write the answer 2 ways. Square root of 104 is not one of the answers. I want to write it in simplest radical, which means do a factor tree. So if you're not sure what goes into 104, recognize that it is even, so you could just divide by 2. And I could just keep dividing by 2, but I'm going to break this thing down into all the prime factors. Remember to rewrite it for every pair. So I see a pair of 2s. For every pair, you bring 1 2 out front. The 2 and the 13 have to stay together underneath because they don't have pairs, so you're going to multiply them. So it'd be 2 radical 26. That would be the answer in simplest radical form. Rounded to the nearest tenth, I'm just going to put it in my calculator, 2 square root 26. And then tenth is 1 decimal place, so mine would be 10.2. If you don't know where the square root button is on your calculator, you need to ask. Okay? I'm not going to walk around the room and make sure everybody knows. You got to speak up for yourself if you can't find stuff like that on your calculator. All right. Number 16, almost done, you guys. Hopefully you're fast forwarding through this to where you need to watch. Hopefully you don't need to watch every question. If you do, that's cool, but it would be nice not to have to. 16 says, find the midpoint of the segment with the given endpoints. So again, you could plot the points. If they're just straight up asking you, find the distance, find the midpoint, you probably don't need to do that. You can just use the formula. It's when they kind of like give you the midpoint and ask you an end point, that's where the graph is helpful. For a problem like this, I'm just going to plug it in. So again, it's x1, y1, x2, y2. Just be real careful, and your answer is an ordered pair. So I'm going to add the x's together. 8 plus negative 6, divide by 2. And then I add the y's together, negative 6 plus negative 7, and divide by 2. So 8 plus negative 6 is just 2, and then divide that by 2, and you got 1 for your new x value of the midpoint. Over here, so you got to figure out the top number first. Negative 6 plus negative 7 is negative 13 divided by 2. And they wrote it as a decimal. Honestly, it doesn't really say here, but it is technically negative 13 divided by 2. They're writing it like this, negative 6.5. They just divided them and gave the decimal answer. Either way you choose to write it on checkpoint B, though, since I'm grading it by hand, does not matter to me. As long as you write it as an ordered pair. Either one works. Number 17. Oh, this one's fun. You're currently standing in the bottom left-hand corner of a rectangular plot of land. You want to walk to the upper right-hand corner. So I want to be here. Because of newly planted grass, you must walk around the edge. You can't walk where the grass is. Okay, so the outer dimensions are 95 by 105 feet. How much farther is your walk from corner to corner on the plot than it would be if you were to walk across diagonally? Okay, so here's how I have to walk. Let's figure that around. So I have to walk around this thing, which is going to be 95 feet plus 105 feet. Hopefully you're listening, but if you're not, that's just 200. So I have to walk 200 feet because I have to go up and around. I can't walk across the green plot of land. But if I were to be able to walk just straight across, this is what they mean by walking diagonally. Just go from here to here. This would be a shorter distance than going up and around. And they want to know how much shorter. So I could walk straight across, and you got to think, how do you figure that out? Well, people, good old Pythagorean theorem would tell you that. So just think of like the triangle here. That's the C value. Ooh, there's a glare. That's the C value though. Let me turn it back. Still a glare. You just want to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I guess that's a little better. You just need to do Pythagorean theorem, moral of the story, on this triangle. So A and B are the 95 and the 105. If I can find this diagonal, that's the hypotenuse, that's the C value. So I'm just going to go to my calculator and add those two numbers squared together. And then I need to square root. So that's going to be a decimal. That's not a perfect square. So I'm just going to leave it as a square root so that way I have a perfect answer. It's that number right there. Okay. Just out of curiosity, I would walk about 141.6 feet. So it is shorter. I'm going to be an overachiever though and find the perfect answer. If you rounded it and then figured it out, you're still going to get it right. But I'm going to show you how the overachiever would do it. Basically, you just need to subtract these two to figure out how much further it would be. So I'm going to do 200 minus the square root of 20,050. And I would walk about 58, let's see, round to the nearest 10th, 58.4 feet more by going up and around than I would if I could just walk across. That's a good problem right there. All right, two more. Okay, this was like your warm-up problem the other day. Hopefully you got the hint on that one. I suggested to draw a picture. I'm suggesting the same thing here. The angle is angle JKL. Vertex is the middle letter. KM, ray KM bisects. Okay, bisect means cut in half. So ray KM is going right down the middle of this angle, and it's cutting these two pieces. It's cutting the whole angle in half, which would make these two pieces congruent. So I could mark them like that. I want to solve for y and find the measure of angle JKL. So angle JKM, which is this left piece, is 7y minus 12. Angle LKM, which is the other side, is 3y plus 4. I know KM is right down the middle. I already marked it. These two guys should be the exact same. So I'm just going to set these equal, and then just use algebra to solve. So y would equal 4. Once you find y, you can go ahead and find the angle. So angle JKL is what they want, which, guys, that's the whole thing. So all I need to do is find half of it, and then I can just double it since the two halves are the same. So I'm going to go here. I know that y is 4. So if I just do 3 times 4 plus 4, that's 16 degrees. So if this guy is 16, this guy is 16. So 16 plus 16, the whole angle would be 32 degrees. Last one, number 19. If the measure of angle KLJ is 30, always label on the picture what they're telling you, and HLK, that's the whole thing, is 66, so the whole thing is 66. What's the measure of HLJ? What's this guy? Well, angle addition postulate, if you add two angles together, it equals the whole thing. So I would do that in reverse on this one, and just do 66 minus 30, which would give me 36 degrees.